Thanks. How's it, friends? My name is Mano, and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for having me here. I'm also humbled, and to be sitting here and sharing my story with you guys also reminds me where I come from a few years ago when I was in treatment, and the story of my life. I'll be honest with you guys. I haven't, not even for 2 minutes, took time to think about what I'm going to share with you guys this morning. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I was in active addiction for 27 years, and my story is 27 years old. So to give you guys half an hour of it shouldn't be a problem, really. You know? I tell you, today is Father's Day. I woke up this morning, and at 6:30, I was actually in the toilet. And I had this moment to think, I've got a house full of my children all over, in each bedroom, you know, they with their families, because they're all married now, and I'm fortunate to have my eldest daughter here with me, with her husband and kids. They're all married, and I've got 4 grandkids, and I thought, the house is so full with my kids that are all loving me till 2:30 in the morning, I think, and didn't want me to go to bed. And I said, God, thank you for this. And then I get a call from my ex-wife at that moment, and she said, Mano, a happy Father's Day to you. I just want to thank you for being a fantastic father to our children. And it really, tears just ran down my eyes. You know, it's just my face. I was just overwhelmed and thought, is this really me you're talking about? But because, you know, I remember the old, and I remember lots of pain and lots of dark days with the upbringing of my children and my wife and all that kind of thing. But recovery has saved my life today. You know, today I can stand proud because being clean one day at a time is finding a new me. You know, I come to these meetings, and somebody asked me recently, they said to me, Mano, how long are you going to continue doing these meetings? I said, my friend, for as long as I want to enjoy this way of life. You know? And I wouldn't change this for anything in the world, because, sure, you know, we speak about living a life that is happy, joyous, and free. You know, I woke up at 3 o'clock one morning, and I sat outside in my balcony. But in the last few weeks, and I said, God, I just want to thank you for the peace. I have so much of peace, you know, and when I think about what do I have to do for all of this to happen, I realize that I just have to do recovery, you know. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I'm going to try not to dwell too much on the war stories and the past, and I like to focus more on recovery. If I can, let's hope we can do that. So I think I'm going to speak just a little bit about my relationships. My reality is that I'm onto my 3rd marriage currently. I've had 2 failed marriages as a direct result of my active addiction. I married the same woman twice, and then the 3rd time around I've got a new wife. So I've had 2 daughters from my first marriage, and then I decided that I heard the word incompatibility, and I thought it sounded good. But actually my life was unmanageable. You know, I was an alcoholic, I was an addict, I couldn't manage my life, and we got divorced, and over a period of a few years, something had happened that I'd fallen in love with this woman again. And we had another wedding. My 2 little girls from my first marriage were my flower girls at the second wedding. We bought a new house, a new car, and we had to have a new baby, and a little boy came along. My son is now 22 years old. He's studying medicine, and he's been in China for the last 5 years. And he's doing quite well. I always wanted to be a daddy and have a son. But my boy was barely even 9 months old when my marriage failed. Kaput, it was over for the second time around. And it was directly as a result of my active addiction and my lifestyle. So after the second marriage had failed, I took a break for a while. I think it was about 6 years. I really didn't want to get married, and I wasn't interested in a partner and all of that. There was a bit of me having a good party because I was by myself, with my drug of choice at that time. That was my everything. And then when I thought about a partner for life again, I kind of settled more on, no, you know what, I'm going to try and get clean and be all right and try and be a father to my children. And I think I leaned more in that direction. And it worked out for a while. And I think I was about 2 years clean. And I woke up one morning and I decided I'm just too lonely. I'm going to find myself a partner. And so I went to work and my eyes were open. And I'm in the panel beating industry, and a young female bumped her car and she came in looking for a quotation. And I spotted her, and I knew what I thought the morning when I woke up, and she looked nice, and I said, that's the one. Yeah? So, and believe you me, it wasn't long. Within a matter of a few months, we were really married. A few months, I'm not joking about that. The next morning, I was at her workplace, looking into her face and saying, listen, you're going to be my wife. And she laughed and laughed and laughed, and she said, I said, why are you laughing? She said, I've heard all the lines. I've never seen and heard somebody that's so direct. And I said, well, you are. You're going to be my wife. And then I went on to find out a little bit about her, and this young lady happened to be not ever have a boyfriend or be in any kind of relationship. She was a virgin. She'd never had a partner. She never touched a guy's hand or kissed a guy. And so I had this opportunity of telling her my lovely story. I said, well, you've now met a man who's been a gangster, who's been an alcoholic, who's been a drug addict, who's been married a couple of times. I've got kids from a few marriages, but I tell you what, that's the past. It's all over. All right? And you should be very grateful because, I've seen it all, I've done it all, and now I'm ready for you. Let's do this thing. And needless to say, she bought the story, and we were married in a few months, and everything went well. We decided that we're going to buy a house, which we did together, and I lived in that house for 3 months whilst I busy furnished it, and I got it ready for the day of our wedding. And the day we got married, we walked straight into the house. It was fully furnished, and sure, it was beautiful. Everything was nice, and I wasn't using, and everything was going well. My in-laws thought I was like, sure, God had arrived into that family, and they all, took, well, you know what it's like, eh? And everything went well. 9 months to the day of my wedding, so I think my wife probably fell pregnant on the honeymoon. 9 months later, she's in hospital giving birth, and instead of going to smoke a cigar and celebrate this day, I had found myself in a strip club in town in Smith Street in Durban, all right, downing a couple of beers to just chill. And before I knew it, I was sitting with a few people that I really didn't know, with a crack pipe in my hand, and there I was. Celebration and all of that. My wife knew nothing because she had just given birth, and I was in the hospital. I went and saw her, had a nice bath and dressed up, and I went and saw her in the hospital. And everybody invited me for dinner, and I said, no, I don't. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to have some fun. So I said to everybody, the next person, I'm going to the next person, that kind of thing. So whoever asked me, I said, no, I'm going there. And somebody else asked me, I said, no, I'm going there. But I wanted to be by myself, and I ended up in the strip club, and I blew everything. The next day, I had to fetch my wife from the hospital. The phone call came, and she'd been discharged. And 4 hours later, I managed to take that call to hear that she was discharged. But My drug of choice at that time actually made me very paranoid. And I would tend to switch off my cell phones and pull out the landline phones, and which is what I did, and pin all the curtains with pegs and close all the gaps, move all the furniture against the doors, and do some crazy stuff. And that's just where I was at that time, with my wife, with this baby sitting in the waiting room now because it's 4 hours and I haven't fetched her, and then decides to phone her brother-in-law to come and fetch her, and drive out of the hospital with an immediate search for her husband, which she had no idea that I had relapsed and I've been using. She had a Caesar, so she'd been properly cut, baby in her hands and all of that, and she entered the house and I was like, and I can't imagine what she thought and what she thing, and she was there for a few minutes and she'd left. And that's where that chapter began, with what I did to my wife for the third time around, and it lasted a couple of years. And I've been to 5 rehabs, 5 treatment centers, and they all taught me different things. I had to show scary experiences. So by the time I got to the end of treatment center number 4, I really didn't need number 5, because I thought, I've seen it all. I've seen 4 of them. They don't know jack shit about who I am and what I'm about. Maybe that treatment for scuppies is not for me. And I felt that I'm going to have to probably die this way. And for some odd reason, I had ended up through the Narcotics Anonymous helpline. I had ended up here at the treatment center that's very close to us up the hill here. And it was, for the first time, I was introduced to a 12-step treatment center. But I'll tell you very quickly my unique experience at the treatment center and how sick I am. In that after the assessment and that, I was told that, listen, that, okay, you actually need to be in treatment, but these are the fees, and here's the phone, so if you can, take 30 minutes and see what you can come up with, and then we can book you in. So I took the 30 minutes, and I came back with the result of a fat 0. Nobody even wanted to lend me 50 Rand towards the fees that I needed to pay. And so they said to me, well, that's all good. Then you need to, in a nice way, pack your bags, and we'll see you. I said, no. You guys need to listen to me. I'm really not going anywhere. And they were all shocked. I said, that's my thing. I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid to leave here. But guys, that is when I went beneath my bottom. Everybody has a right to hit their bottom, but I had actually went beneath my bottom at that time. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. The pain inside of me was too much to handle. I just couldn't do this anymore. I could not do this. And I said to the people at the treatment center, I said, I'm not going anywhere. And so we got into a little kind of a nice argument, and they couldn't handle me, and they sent me out the office, and they had a little discussion. They called me back, and it happened 2 or 3 times in the day. And I think on the 4th time, they called me in, and I think they had to call Don in for an emergency meeting, and then they called me in, and they said, okay, we've got news for you. You are now in treatment. We don't talk about fees. That's your room number and that. So I said, sure, that's it. And I stayed there for close on to 4 months. And that is where life for me had actually begun, guys. The best thing that had ever happened to me in my life is to be introduced to a 12-step program that has made me and saved me and changed me and caused me to be this person that I am here today. One day at a time. The simple thing, my brother, you're going to have to stop me because I can just think. The simple thing that has caused me to change my life is the one single thing in this big book here. It talks about rigorous honesty. And guys, when I came into treatment, I knew about drugs, I knew about women and nightclubs and that kind of thing. But don't give me big words like rigorous and all that. So I had to use a dictionary, and I checked rigorous. What does this mean? It says severe, harsh. So severe, harsh honesty makes sense to me today. I still battle with trying to be honest. It's not easy. Honesty is a difficult principle to practice, extremely difficult, you know. I mean, I have a house that's fully paved, you know, but if I'm driving on the road and if there's a lawnmower somewhere, you know, that's closer to the road of somebody's house, my mind is already going, get a bucky, load it up, let's go, need this thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell? But it's the way I'm wired, guys. You know, this is crazy. You know, and it's me. It's who I am. It's my disease. It's how it works. And so I've got to work on this every day. You know, when I came into treatment, I had a few questions. I really enjoyed spending my time in treatment with Keith and Julia. And I think Keith was my counselor, and I asked him many, many questions. One of it was, I said, listen, I really want to do this. Or first I had to give him a warning. I said, Keith, I'm not saying this to threaten you or for you to think otherwise, but I've really been notorious, which was a fact. The previous 4 treatment centers, I separated the coolos from the crooks, and I hang out with the crooks, where we'd break into the offices at midnight, steal the computers, phone the merchants, and we did all that kind of thing, and I thought I'll disclose it to you. But I said, I'm not telling you this for any other reason. I really want help, you know. So can I ask you a question? He said, yes. I said, tell me what's going to be different here in this treatment center compared to everything else that's going to make a difference in my life. And I waited for an answer. And he said, well, Mano, we are going to first learn to love you because right now you don't know how to love yourself. It didn't mean too much, really. I mean, I'm just coming into treatment and I'm as sick as hell, and you know. But when I went into my room and I looked in the mirror, and I think together with all the using that I've been doing, you know, my eyes, these sockets had sunken right to the back. And I was all black around here, and my skin was stretched, you know, over my head. My wife said to me I looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost. You know, honestly, she wouldn't even touch me. She always complained that I'd be oily and sticky and just leave it out kind of thing, you know. And when I looked in the mirror, I actually got a scare because I kind of pulled away. And this is me. This is, you know, my thing in the mirror. And so it kind of made sense what Keith had said to me. And what I can say to you guys is, as the days went by, all right, my sleeping patterns got better, my eating patterns got better, I started feeling a little bit better, and as the days got by, looking at the mirror just caused me to just stick around a point of a second or a second a little longer, you know, and that in itself had progressed to a place where I would take some time to talk to this guy in the mirror, you know. And I do that very regularly. I do that very, very regularly because today you guys have taught me to love myself. You all have taught me to respect me, you know. And that's what's important to me. And the mirror is very special to me because when I was in treatment, all right, there was something on my bathroom window. A mirror, sorry, and it says, I am looking at the problem. All right? If you walk into my bedroom today, I've got it 1.5 meters long. I am looking at the problem on my mirror. All right? And that's the first thing I see every single morning. And guys, you know what? The buck stops right there for me, Mano the alcoholic, because having to play the blame game. You know, if ever anybody had to ask me at any time, when are you going to stop your nonsense? I'll point at my wife. Get rid of her, I'll show you. I'll show you, I'll be all right. Sorted. Honestly. You know, and that. Nothing has changed. Nothing much has changed with her. All right? And she's become the most, you know, my wife jumped off a moving car the one time. All right. And by the time I had like 2 cars in front of me and 2 cars behind me, and by the time I could stop and pull up the handbrake and get to chase her, her one leg was over the bridge, over the Amgeni River, and she was just about to jump into the Amgeni River. And somebody stopped and he said to me, he is the member of parliament for a specific area and that, can he help me? I said, please, please, please. And he could see, this woman was kicking her legs and throwing her, acting mad, and I was just there like very reserved and like kind of professional. And the guy felt sorry for me, and I could see it. And he says to me, I got a pair of handcuffs. Should I handcuff her to the light pole? I said, please, do me a favor. And that. And that's what I would do, and that's how I would carry on, But, guys, today, I'm glad she stuck around. I'm glad my wife stuck around with me, because there was a time I even asked her to go back to her parents. And I said to her, we had a serious talk about this. I said, listen, I'm going nowhere. I'm going to disappear. I'm going to die. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get shot. All right? There's nothing left for us. All right? Please go back to your parents. You're going to forget about me, and it's going to be all right. She said, I'll never leave you because. I said, because what? She says, because you don't have a single person around you. So what's going to happen? I made the commitment. I'll go down with you. And I'm grateful for that, because you see today, guys, I live a life that is happy, joyous, and free. We talk about the gifts of recovery, and they say sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. On the 10th of June, I celebrated my 2-year milestone, and 2 years prior, guys, I had nothing. I had debt. I didn't even have a car. I had nothing. All right. And just by doing this program, I've relapsed so many times, and I got tired of actually relapsing, because I'd come to the meeting with a plot, and if I'm not enjoying the meeting, then I'll cause my phone to ring and I'll act like I'm talking and I'm out and I'm going to the merchant, or I'll decide to stick around and I'll do the talk. I'll do recovery talk, and I'll, do the meeting after the meeting, and then I'm going to the merchant after that. Or, I'm using the whole night through, but the next day I'm at a meeting again. And I actually mastered that. I became such a good liar amongst addicts, because they always told me, hey, go and fool everybody else. Don't come and try and fool those in the rooms. They'll catch you. And then I started working on those in the rooms to see how I can catch them. And it worked for a while, but then I realized there came a time where I was sitting in meetings, and you guys would share and say, had it not been for you guys, I wouldn't have made it through that, the loss of that loved one or that story. And I thought, I'm not seeing and experiencing any of this. And so one day I put my hands up and I said, guys, you guys need to forgive me. I've been sitting here day after day and lying to you all. I'm not clean. I'm actually very busy with my disease, all right, and I need help. And I actually thought, I thought, listen, if somebody has to give me a slap or maybe a kick for what I had done, for interfering with people's recovery and taking it lightly, I'll have to accept it. And after the meeting, I kind of I had my eyes all around, and I was like backpedaling kind of thing, and the guys were walking towards me. And they said to me, so what you up to? Where you off to? And I said, no, I'm okay. I'm free. They reckon, okay, let's jump in the car. We're going somewhere. And I said, okay, fine. I was even too afraid to ask them where we're going. And we ended up going to Gateway. It was a weekday night, and the guys sat with me till 2 o'clock in the morning. We ate, we laughed. They showed me how to fellowship. They taught me what to do. And they said to me, as of today, you're going to listen. All right? And that's where recovery began for me. Because recovery started happening for me when I decided to take the suggestions. I came in here to the rooms and I looked at you guys and I was judgmental, and I said, you guys have a story just like mine. Am I going to listen to you? Take a suggestion from you. How's that going to work for me? And that's why recovery never worked for me. These days I've learned to take this, whatever the suggestion is, not, I wouldn't say all the suggestions, but as ridiculous as the suggestion may seem, all right, I try and use these suggestions. I mean, I have invited addicts to my house, all right, for a dinner. And I said, guys, I said to my wife, lay the tables, organize everything. And, I was kind of showing off a little bit and making sure that they're all right. And there were 3 or 4 of them. And the next thing is we had dinner and I called for a finger bowl, or my wife brought me a finger bowl. And they stopped everything and they called my wife and they called my kids and they said, what the hell is going on here? And I looked and I said, what's happening? They reckon this guy is acting like God in this house. We want this to stop. I said, what, guys? They're talking about the finger bowl. I said, guys, it's my house. I invited you all here. They said, yes, stop this nonsense. I said, and then what? You wake up and take your plate to the sink. And let's go a step further, go and wash that plate too. I said, okay. I didn't enjoy it, really. I mean, you come to my house, I've invited you, and now, I'm getting this. But I've learned to take the suggestions. I'll tell you what, humility has come over me. My relationship with my wife at home, I'm no longer God. I see what these guys mean now. And I'd called my daughter, and in that same evening, I called my daughter, get me my sandals, and she brought the sandals, and she threw them this way, and I couldn't slip my feet in, so I had to call her back so she could turn them, so I could slip my feet in. And I think I just pushed it, because I got sorted out properly. These days, when I want my pair of sandals, I go and fetch it, and that's recovery for me. Having to talk to my sponsor every day is recovery for me. I battled with the sponsor relationship. I thought, I got this thing sorted. When I'm really battling, I'll talk to my sponsor. And those days wouldn't come. I talk to my sponsor at least 5 or 6 times a week these days. Doing meetings. Guys, I can sit here safely and tell you, if I don't do meetings for 3 or 4 consecutive days, I'm in trouble. Mano is in trouble because this head starts growing, And that, recently I came up with a beautiful suggestion. I sat my wife down and I said, darling, do you know what? I've grown so much. I belong to so many organizations right now because I've been elected as the president of a charity organization called Superheroes Charities, and I have a group of business people that all, support me in this drive, and it takes up a lot of time, and I do so much other stuff with the church and other business organizations and forums and all of that. So I sat my wife down and I said, listen, I've got news for you. I don't need recovery. I don't need these meetings. I'm sorted. And you have to believe it. And my life is too full for me to do shit. You understand? So I'm okay. Because otherwise, if you don't agree with me, then I'm going to start getting frustrated because now I'm going to have not enough time to do everything. And I thought she has to agree because, I know what I'm talking about here. She looked at me and she said, okay, are you done? I said, yes. She said, well, can I speak? I said, yes. She said, if you don't do a minimum of 3 meetings a week, you can pack your bags now. Because she knows the many times that I tried to do recovery my way, what had happened. She knows what happens when I don't do meetings, all right? And when I left treatment here, I clearly remember, I asked my counselor, I said, what would happen if I stopped doing meetings? He said to me, you'll surely use. There was a time where I'd stayed clean without using for 5 years. I did meetings. My first year was golden. 365 meetings in 365 days. The second year, a little less, and the third year, a little less. The fourth and fifth year, guys, I did not do meetings. I clearly remember driving on a Friday afternoon, because I live in Durban, past the Friday Musgrave meeting, looking at the addicts, waiting for their 7:30 meeting and going like this, yeah. You'll need it, you're still sick. Honestly. And I was right. I didn't use for the whole 2 years thereafter, And I thought, yeah, that's what they talk, But guys, I surely did relapse. These days, I don't need to rewrite that book. I'm an addict. I'm as sick as hell. I don't need anybody to tell me that. All right? I know this disease, these monkeys in my head, they run amok. You know, I've got to identify these voices constantly on a daily basis. My recovery is one day at a time. I have to do it one day at a time. You know, and if any day is called today, and if I wake up, and if I go on my knees and surrender my will and my life to my higher power, all right, read a bit of literature, contact 2 or 3 addicts in the day, just to say, how's it? You know, just to connect. Look forward to my meeting in the day, you know, and I'm going to be okay. Before I go to bed, I make sure that I can go on my hands and knees and thank my higher power for keeping me clean just for the day. Because, guys, it was almost impossible for me to stay clean. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, you know. But here I am, one day at a time, you know. Before I came to the 12-step program, I was a big willpower chap. I mean, talk willpower, bro, we can do this thing, you know. These days, you know, you guys tell me, Mano, you want to talk willpower? Drink a bottle of castor oil, lock yourself in the room, and don't worry about the toilet. I say, okay, leave it out then, you know. We can't do it. I always knew of God. I always respected God. But my relationship with my higher power started right here in Narcotics Anonymous. I still battle with pastors. I still battle with people from the church saying, you need to stop saying you're an addict. You need to stop saying you're an alcoholic. You're okay now. You don't need this. Yeah, I heard that. And I tried it your way. Didn't work for me. I got clean here in these rooms. My relationship with my higher power started here, you know, and that's how it'll always be, you know. I need recovery, guys. I need you guys, because out there, you know, I can buy people, sell them and give them change, and they still think I'm a big hero out there. Yeah, I come into these rooms, I come into this fellowship to look at myself in the mirror, to learn about myself. And every day I learn new things about me. And it's such a pleasure. You know, one of the beautiful things that happened in my recovery, and guys, I say this with humility. All right, I say this with humility in that I learned about amends, and I realized that everything, this is an action program. Recovery is action. So for recovery to work for me, I needed to put in the action, all right? And when it came to financial amends, I had to go to the bank, and I was owing millions of rands to the banks, all right? And I had to go to the bank and sit them down and say, how's it? This is my story, because, you know, there's no... My recovery is not too much of a secret these days. If I walk into a pharmacy, I'll tell the pharmacist, I'm an addict, I'm in recovery, I'm an alcoholic. Watch what you're giving me. If I go to a new GP, you know, I'll say it out loud. Wherever I go, I'm proud of my recovery, you know. And so I went into the bank and I said, listen, this is my story. We had a bit of a problem. I need to make this thing right. They check on the computer and say, Mr. Naiga, we're sorry. Or it's actually maybe good for you. Your account is closed, written off. You don't have to pay. I said, no, but I need to pay. I need to make amends. They said, no, you really don't have to. But we got news for you. So long as you got a South African barcoded ID, don't come near the bank. Stay where you are. You know? And that became a problem because, you know, I wanted to get into some kind of business and all of that. Now, what do I do? But I tell you what, guys, the gifts of recovery, and all I needed to do was to do recovery. I needed to stay clean. I needed to do my step work. And you know, when it comes to step work, you know, meetings kept me clean. To look forward to a meeting today, I know I don't have to use, because the meeting will keep me clean, all right? But my healing comes from me doing my step work. Right. That's where everything happened. in me. The secret is in me doing my step work. All right? And it's made all the changes in my life. It's made all the difference in my life. And some of the things is, I think I'll close with this, in that the greatest thing I've ever learned in life is to own my stuff. Nothing greater for Mano, the alcoholic, than to own my stuff. Look at my part in anything. And you know what? 9 out of 10 times the buck stops right here. It doesn't have to go any further. Really doesn't have to go further. Because so long as I have a part to play in anything, and when I look at my part, I don't need to go any further. I don't even have to have a further discussion with anybody, because there's something about it there that I could have done. When I left this treatment center, my counselor said to me, he said, Mano, there's a plate in front of you. And in that plate is always Mano's issues. All right? Stop being a hypocrite. You're an alcoholic. Don't talk about the neighbor drinking and booting his wife. Look at this plate and you'll see Mano's issues in there. Every time you bend down, you're going to see Mano's issues. All right? When that plate is empty, then start talking about other people. I said, okay, sir. Guys, ever since that day till now, every time I look down, I still have issues that I have to deal with. I can't give advice. I was a master at giving advice and telling other people what's good for them. You guys have taught me that I'm still trying to find out what's good for me. So I can't give advice. I can make suggestions based on my experience, all right? But I really can't give advice. Guys, I think that's it for me. Thanks for letting me share.